Greetings to you, beloved ones. It is with much, much joy that we do come to you in this time. And so as we are looking at you energetically, we see around each of you some loving beings of light. And these loving beings of light are here to remind you that they are here for your support, for your assistance, and for your companionship. Yes, even just companionship. It's not necessarily that they have to give you a great insight or a great gift. Instead, what they are here to offer you is unconditional love. Because ultimately that is what everyone is seeking on some level, is the remembrance of who they are, is love. And when that energy can be received into the system, the human system, so to speak, the mind, with all of its files of thoughts and beliefs and programming and experiences and reactions to the experiences based on the programming, based on the ancestral history, all of that, that beyond all of that is the place where you are perfect love. And in this place of perfect love, there's nothing that is needed, there's no lacking, there's no seeking. There is only the beingness. But because you are in life where there are certain opportunities to feel as though something is missing, and what we mean by this is that sometimes through some of the programming there is a way that the mind says, well, I am missing health because my body is not healthy. I should have health because my body is not healthy. So there is a feeling of that health is missing. It's over here somewhere that needs to be attained, that needs to be gotten and put back into the body, like a supplement or something. If I can just find this health, then I'll be great, right? Or there is a sense of my soulmate is missing, and if I just put that person here next to me, linking arm in arm, then there is a feeling of now nothing is missing and I can go on with my life, you see? Sometimes it is finances. It feels as though I know I was meant to have this amount of finances and this is how much I have, so that other part of the finances feels as though it is missing. So these guides, these loved ones, angelic helpers that are around you, they want to give you a sense of comfort because they see you who you are before you needed any of that. Before you had a body, you didn't need health. Before you had a body, you didn't need a car or a partner or any of that. You were the energy and the essence of the divine, which is, we know that is a very, very vague concept. What is the divine? The divine is, did you hear the sound that the wind chime was making? It was sort of a melodic, very harmonious music. That is a good representation of what the divine is. It doesn't necessarily speak a certain language or have something tangible that you can touch. You cannot touch sound, yet it is there. You feel it, yes? So when you are in that place of the formless, before you come into this place of the form, where everything has a certain particular purpose, path, goal, all of that, you are in the formless state. But because you forget when you are born and you come into that little body that needs to be fed, all of a sudden I have to eat, I'm cold, I need to be held, there's all these physical needs, that suddenly that sense of floating free, of expansion, of love, is lost. So from your very first breath, where there is discontent because you left that warm, watery womb where it was very floaty and sweet and comfortable, into the world, there became need. And when there becomes need, there is the desire to fill the need. So we're not saying that need is bad. We're saying it's actually a part of the equation. If you want to be human, you're going to have needs, right? But it's when you feel incomplete and you feel that you've forgotten who you really are, which is this light being, that these needs are going to somehow complete you. Because if you ever go to the, let's take the retirement community. We have a local retirement community, and you go there, let's say after lunch when the residents are somewhat satisfied, they've had their food, they're sitting outside in the rocking chairs, and all of a sudden you're noticing they're all just dozing off to sleep. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. A few of the more motivated ones might be playing a little bingo, but in general, they're sort of a being just in the moment. If their body is tired, why not sleep, right? Because that drive to acquire, that drive to get health, most of them, if you ask them if they care about their health, they're not really going to care. They're going to eat that chocolate cake because it's there in front of them, and they're not worried that they have to take a diabetic medicine. For the most part, they've lived a long and full life, and they're just being in the moment. So that is the gift that comes when a person goes beyond the years, when they are productive, when they are producing, into the time of beingness. It's almost like a preparation for coming back into the fullness of the being before. So it is, life is a cycle. You start as a baby who is needing, and then you get skills, and you get stronger, and you get smarter, and you get more adept at things, right? And you learn to make connections, and you learn to handle tools, and you learn to do many different things. And you explore, now people explore the world. It used to be they explored their community. Now people go all around the world. In your children's times, they will be going to other planets. That's so exciting, yes? They're not just going to be exploring this dimension. There'll be many other dimensions of exploration. But then comes the time of rest again. But people fight against this natural process because it's actually a natural process. You can see it in a dog. The dog is the puppy, it chews the furniture, then it goes to a place of learning to sit still and not chewing the furniture, and then it gets to a place of want to take it for a walk, and it says, okay, but it's going a little reluctantly, and then it gets to the place where it's not going to walk, it's just going to sit, and then it passes on. And it's a very natural process, and this is a gift that we have been given to see other life forms that have shorter lifespans, so we can see the human lifespan condensed down into a very relatively short period of time, yes? But when somebody exits before you think it is their proper time to exit, this is when there's difficulty. This is when the heart says, they still had a role here in life. They shouldn't have killed themselves. They shouldn't have walked in front of that car. They shouldn't have gotten sick. They shouldn't have, whatever it is, they should still be here. So this is where we really have to remind you that they're going home to their full self. That this is only a tiny little, like your thumbnail. This human life is just a tiny little piece of this much larger existence. But what happens is when an individual exits, whether it is a pet or a human neighbor, or even a dearly loved plant, you planted an apple tree and all of a sudden it got some sort of a blight and it died and you feel this loss, it's going back into the fullness of its true self. But the attachment to this individual, this is what we want to talk about today, because this is what keeps you from being present in the moment. Is when you have attachment to someone, something that has gone, that is no longer in your life, and you keep going back to that, you miss the very moment that you are living in. In this very moment right now, there is wind happening. Can you hear it? Very gently, you can hear it. There is warmth in the room. There's the scent of the magnolia flower. There are all of these different ways of knowing that the present moment is existing. But when grief comes in, what happens is grief, it's like putting a black sack over your head and you're in the same room, but you don't hear the wind and you don't smell the flower and you don't feel the love of the people there because you're in this black sack. And that's all you can experience is blackness of what is gone rather than what is here. So we don't mean to make light of grief, because grief has it's a very important teaching. But when you stay in grief, instead of allowing grief to, what we call, move through the organism, move through the system, that is when you stop living life. And that is when your body says, well, you're stopping living life? Well, I guess we should start shutting down. And you find that sometimes when people experience a great grief, that a year or 2 years later, if they haven't allowed that energy to move through, their bodies start getting sick because there isn't the life force going in. It's like being in that sack and the sunlight of the sun is not coming through. They're not getting nourished from those people that are around them. So sometimes it just simply takes somebody reaching out a hand to somebody who's in grief and just holding the hand while they're still in the sack. So if you know somebody that's really having a hard time, you don't try to lift the sack and lift the grief and make it be gone. You just simply sit with them and hold their hand. Words aren't even necessary. You just hold their hand and they're going to begin to feel some life in that hand. And very, very gently, they'll start to trust that there's something beyond the grief, because they can begin to feel it. Usually when grief is very strong, there's an inability to eat, sleeping gets interrupted, there is disassociation, there's a way that time, what day is it? I'm not quite sure what day it is, what were my plans, there's a whole disorientation that happens with grief, that it's a process that one moves through. So there has to be a gentleness with that. But on the other hand, there also has to be, from one spirit self and soul self to another self, of wanting to reach out and say, I'm here for you. And don't worry about saying the right things, because there's really nothing right or wrong to say when a person's in grief other than, I feel you. I feel your pain. I feel that. Because it will move when they feel that they don't have to do it alone. So this opportunity that you've each been given to be human, to have human relationships, how exciting. How exciting. You know, there are many dimensions of being where there isn't the individuation that we have here. Rather, this is more like the garden with all the different varieties of flowers, yes? But in other dimensions, there is a oneness of consciousness where, have you ever seen a flock of birds and it looks as though they're flying as one? There are whole planets that are like that, where the whole energy is of oneness. There isn't the individual. There's no need for that. There's just life expressing itself as a oneness. So there are many different ways and opportunities to experience the beingness. On this planet, the most important thing to remember is love is really truly the answer to all. So whenever you get confused, how am I going to do this math test? How am I going to do this, build this house? How am I going to, oh, they seem like very concrete types of things. How could love be the answer there? How could love be the answer? The way that love is the answer in those circumstances where you have actual physical things that you have to do is love creates a relaxation. And when there is relaxation, there is openness. And when there is openness, then there is opportunity for divine guidance to come through. But when there is judgment, it's almost as if you notice this one just opened the door, there's that feeling of openness. That's what love does. Love opens the door to new possibilities, new energy, new flow coming in. Judgment, fear, close the door. And when the door is closed, it feels very trapped, very limited. So love always opens doors. We are here and we are most available for any question that you would wish to ask in this time, dear ones. How may we be of service to you? Please.